this will be recorded. And I'm really pleased to have here today Adam Gazzaley. And we're going to be doing this a little differently this time. So this is going to be a discussion. I'll talk with Adam for around 45 minutes, and then there'll be time for questions at the end. So if if you have questions that come up along the way, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end. So Adam, I've known Adam for a number of years. He's the David Dolby having trouble talking today. This is not a good start to an interview. David Dolby, Distinguished Professor of Neurology, Physiology, and Psychiatry at the University of California, San Francisco. And he started his career as a neuroscientist, but I guess around 10 years ago, started looking at video games as interventional tools. And he's gone on to become one of, and I think arguably the leader in using games to address cognitive and psychological problems. He founded Akili Interactive, which in 2020 had the first video game, EndeavorRx, to be cleared by the FDA for ADHD. And he also continues to direct Neuroscape, a translational neuroscience center that he founded at UCSF. So Adam, it is really a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So maybe the place to start is just maybe you can talk a little bit about how you went from being a neuroscientist to going into using video games as interventional tools.
Sure, thanks. And it's great to talk to an audience of people who are really interested in this field. And there's a lot to talk about here. I know that we'll be still having topics that haven't been covered by the end of the hour. So yeah, to maybe create the high level conversation that I'd like to have, it's really been a journey for me. I trained as an MD PhD, and my clinical work was as a neurologist, and my research it was in neuroscience. But I was always really motivated to help people. As interesting as the brain is, and I could study it without any goals, really, but besides learning about the brain, my intentions were always to learn about the brain and to help people. And it's easy to go down the rabbit hole with neuroscience and just get led away from that. I guess it's even been a little longer than that, almost 15 years now. I was studying distraction and multitasking in the aging brain and showing that we don't do it very well, and things get worse as we get older. And it was a very interesting research area, but it was very unsatisfying to present it to the public. And I started doing more and more public talks, and it was just very unsatisfying to people to hear about all these challenges that our brains have without any solutions about what they can do for it. And I became interested in what we might be able to do using the tools of neuroscience, the insights that we had along the way. I studied plasticity as a graduate student, and how we might develop novel approaches to help people's attention. That was really my intentions at the time, was to improve attention abilities in older adults. Um, as we all know, we tend to think about drugs as medicine, and the way that we help the brain when it is suffering, the vast array of conditions that we suffer from. But I was also very interested in how we might use experiences as tools to drive the brain's plasticity in order to improve function. And we know very well from neuroscience that our brains are responsive to experience. It's the basis of learning, and that every level of, from every way that we can view the nervous system, structurally, chemically, physiologically, functionally, in all sorts of manners, it responds to experience, and it optimizes its performance in response to that. So in thinking about how we might create an experience to lead to targeted outcomes, I was very interested in the role of technology. It was sort of a, not ironic, but a switch of narrative, in that I had been speaking a lot about the challenges that technology has delivered to us in forms of distraction and multitasking. And here was an idea to flip it around, to say that all technologies, everything that humans have ever created, are really two-sided swords. They can hurt, they can make better, right? Fire could burn your house down. It could cook your dinner. A molecule could be a poison or a medicine in different doses. And how might we use tools that have really challenged our brains, in particular, experiential technologies like video games to improve function? And so that's sort of the high level vision that drives everything I do, whether it's within academics or within industry. How do we build experiences that are targeted and adaptive? We call them closed loop experiences so that they're targeting and challenging someone right at that perfect level. Um, to improve function? And then how do we experimentally approach that to design it in a rigorous way where the methodology really leads us to the conclusion that this is having an impact outside of the game and that that impact has some value and that it has some durability. And so that's sort of the transition in my life from going from neuroscience alone to what I describe now as translational approaches using neuroscience. We still do a ton of neuroscience in most of my work, but how do we take it as an inspiration and a directing force to create tools that we then validate and get into people's hands?
Yeah, and you know it's the context that you talk about is, I think, really interesting. You've talked about it sometimes, calling it the cognition crisis that we
Mhm.
have. You talked a little bit about the distractibility that we have, that everybody is multitasking, and that now you're using some of those same tools that are used for distraction to actually help help as one of the treatments. So
Yeah, yeah.
so
Maybe I'll just double tap on that since you brought up a term that's near and dear to me. I'm actually rewriting a piece from 2018 called The Cognition Crisis. And I wrote a book on a piece of this called The Distracted Mind, but I was really interested in something bigger than that. And, the premise about the cognition crisis is that we have these amazing brains, right? We know we do. Look at the societies and the technologies and the art and the music that humans have created. There's a lot to be proud of in what our species has accomplished. But I would say that we're really at a precipice right now where our brains are not keeping up with the environment that we created. And this is not the environment that our brains evolved in. This is not the perception action cycle that led to cognition, how we perceive the world and respond to it. This is a very different environment. And technology has really contributed to that difference in a major way, as everyone listening to this knows. And I would say that that's manifested in a whole array of challenges that we face right across the board for how we focus our attention, how we perceive the world, how we make decisions, how we feel empathy and compassion, regulate our emotions, have wisdom. All across the board, I'd say that we are just tragically lacking when it comes to cognition. And the reason I call it the cognition crisis is because I want to step that conversation larger than what we tend to refer to as the mental health crisis, which usually is in the clinical domain. And we know that's a very real problem, right? Over 500 million people around the world seek care for debilitating impact on their cognitive abilities, and the long list of conditions. But I would say that beyond that, people that generally consider themselves healthy, that when it comes to how we, make critical decisions and long-term thinking and empathic concern and sustained attention, we're all lacking, and we're paying a price for that. And that price is completely visible just by looking at the news today, I would say. Um, and how do we move forward? How do we, as I like to say, level up our minds, not just when we're suffering, but in general, so that we could have better lives and interact with this environment we created in a healthier way. So that's like my sort of North Star, what really, motivates me every day, especially as I have two little girls now, very, very little, and thinking about their future on this planet, and the need for us to prioritize both understanding and elevating the human mind is not in the conversation right now. And there are times throughout human history where we have prioritized that. It just is just not one of those times. So how do we think about it? And then might we use technology, which is so pervasive and accessible and so powerful, to do more than entertain us and communicate with each other? Can we use it as a way of addressing this cognition crisis?
yeah. maybe we can maybe we can start kind of where you started. So when you start when you know when you started this, you said that you mentioned that you started working with older adults
Yeah,
in managing cognition problems. Can you talk a little bit about the
sure. Yeah, so
beginnings there?
2008, so 15 years ago now. I was finishing like a whole series of studies that we published in my lab at the time. This is before we became a center, which we are now, Neuroscape. We have 11 faculty now, so we're a big group now. At that time, we were a lot smaller, but our work was showing that older adults suffer attention challenges as they get older, and understanding a little bit of the neural basis by which that occurs, and the role of distracting information and multitasking, as I described. And so my goal for my first foray into this world was, can we build a video game that challenges cognitive control, your ability to sustain your attention, to switch your attention rapidly, um, and then validate in research trials, well-controlled research trials, even using neural recordings to understand mechanism, whether or not an older adult that got better at a video game that challenged them at a very high level to do these type of demanding cognitive control tasks, if we could get benefits outside of the game and what that might mean in terms of, the neural foundations of that transfer. And so we built a game called NeuroRacer. It was the first game I ever built. It was a closed loop game, and I sort of defined that loosely, but just to drive that point home again, a closed loop game or a closed loop experience, as I like to think of it, is one in which the challenges and the rewards, the stimuli, the entire environment that an individual is exposed to, either passively or actively, is being updated in real time, ideally, based upon their own data. And that data may be their performance, it may be physiological data that's giving reflections of their arousal, their attention, or their mood. And so you have this perfectly suited environment to challenge you and to advance your brain function by targeting and harnessing that underlying plasticity. And so NeuroRacer was a closed loop game, and we designed it here at UCSF and developed it with friends at LucasArts. And it was, in some ways a very simple game, but it was that really, I think now, sort of uh, important tethering between challenges and rewards that pushed people to interact with this game in a way that they maybe instinctively did not want to. People tend to try to single task and play to their strengths. The game forces you to not do that. And what we showed in then series of research studies, that if older adults engaged in the game in that way, as opposed to single tasking the elements, which was a control group, that we actually improve their ability to sustain their attention outside of the game and other tasks, and also improve their working memory, their very short-term memory for faces. And by recording neural activity, we showed that those transfer effects were correlated with an increase in activity in the theta range, a low frequency in the front part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex. And we also showed that they were able to maintain at least their ability to multitask on the game 6 months later. We've now shown that that actually retained 6 years later, which is quite remarkable. And so that was the foundation of everything for us, showing that we could work with professionals in a very different industry, in this case, the video game industry, and build a game, do a carefully controlled trial. There were 3 groups in that study, do it with neural recordings, understanding mechanism. We've even advanced our methodology since then and show that a video game, which is, as we know, exists largely in the entertainment arena, can lead to these benefits in cognition across multiple domains in a generally healthy population. And that game, NeuroRacer, became the core technology that birthed Akili, which has been around over a decade now, and has taken that technology from the university and advanced it into a way better game called Endeavor. And I say better because it has higher levels of art, music, story, interactivity, better usability, more sophisticated reward cycles, even more sophisticated challenges than NeuroRacer did. But it is exactly the same methodology that was in NeuroRacer and sort of defined by a patent of that technology. And so that game now has gone through over 30 clinical trials and numerous populations, replicating again and again that the game leads to a benefit in sustained attention, particularly outside of the game. Now showing some real life improvements in different populations, certain impairment scales, and other clinical symptomatology. And so, it's been an exciting journey as a scientist to see an idea go through that pathway of becoming a research trial. We published the first study in Nature in 2013, a super important moment for me, cover of Nature, and really set off this path to then move it beyond academics, where it could have easily just ended its life, into something that gets into people's hands, and now that's starting to happen. So it's really exciting.
No, yeah, no, it's an amazing journey starting, and it's one of the things that I just find so impressive from the very beginning is that the cross-disciplinary work that you're doing with video companies, but also the validation using neuroimaging, using functional outcomes, and having a clear sort of a clear set of mechanisms that you're targeting is really impressive. And I just want to go back to a second because it sounds like while sort of the patient populations have changed, the technologies have improved, you've kind of stayed with a core set of principles and mechanisms at least in this part. And it sounds like you mentioned that it was really more effective when people were being challenged with multiple, where they had to pay attention to multiple things at once. And
Yep.
given we can't really pay attention to multiple things at once, is part of what you're doing, kind of building executive function and being able to really target, being able to pay attention to this and that and shifting rapidly? Is that?
Y- Yeah, you're right. This particular path, and it's one of the paths.
Yeah.
Neuroscape, we have a dozen, but this particular one has held a constant line of focus across the last 15 years. It is essentially the same underlying interactivity and closed loop adaptivity that has been there from the very beginning across these, 30 different publications. And the hypothesis was always that by engaging older adults in its first incarnation, and now we've shown this is true for half a dozen different populations, engaging their cognitive control, meaning, an aspect of executive function, maybe not, high level decision making and goal setting, but their ability to have a goal, actually more than one goal, and to focus, to move, to resist distraction, and to do it rapidly, then leads to benefits in very different contexts. That's the transfer that we've shown again and again. That's so exciting to me. I think just even neuroscientifically alone, because they're very different types of attentional deployment subjectively for sure. So when you play the game, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of reward, there's a lot of stimuli. It is fatiguing. Um, and it is rich in stimuli, and then you move to an outcome measure that is boring and no colors and no rewards and very hard to focus on. And we could show benefit there. And that is just that was the original hypothesis, that the networks involved in both the slow, sustained, non-rewarding attention is really overlapping with those networks that we see in the fast-paced switching context. And that's what we showed in our research prior. That's what we were motivated to demonstrate, that these relationships could be causal, that you could improve one and then see a benefit across that gap. And that is what I'm very confident occurs now. And we're exploring neurally how, understanding that from a network basis. In terms of its real life applicability, it's perfectly suited, for conditions like ADHD, where the challenge in real life is that sustained ability to keep focus on something that might not be very motivating, like, sitting in class. And that's what we're starting to now begin to see, that you could see that transfer occurring, from game to task into the real world.
Yeah, and I can see as you talk how why ADHD was was a natural shift for a target as a target population using the same mechanisms. Yeah, where
Yeah,
disorder where kids are, having a lot of difficulty paying attention to things that they don't find immediately interesting and stimulating.
exactly. And young people play video games. So, and the current status quo, the treatment of a stimulant with unknown long-term effects and side effects and, doesn't work in everyone is just not a great
Yeah,
situation that parents and children find themselves in now. So it had all the ringings of a great focus, but till this day, I still, want us to focus on aging as an area as well. And it is an area that's becoming more and more important now, this decade, plus after we started. And what is convincing as well from all of the research we've done is that this tool, this intervention is agnostic to the underlying cause of an attentional impairment. That is completely clear. We've seen it on, this same type of outcomes in autism and multiple depression trials, um, studies of lupus and MS, recently COVID fog. So, and then people that are generally healthy and show that we can even boost attention further. So that's to me really an exciting aspect of a treatment when it can extend beyond a particular diagnostic entity and really improve an underlying function that so many different conditions have as, as part of their symptom list. So um, yeah, ADHD was a starting point, but it was never meant to be an end point and won't be.
yeah, yeah. All right, I do want to at some point kind of shift to, because what you've also done is become an entrepreneur, and on top of all of this, and I want to shift to that a little bit. But before we do that, I want to move a little bit to what you're, to what you're doing at Neuroscape,
Sure.
and what you're most excited about right now on the research side.
That is, sort of like picking your favorite kid question. There's so many things I'm excited about. Maybe just like a little overview of Neuroscape. So my lab changed dramatically after the Nature paper came out in 2013. Soon after that, no one really wanted to leave. Every postdoc wanted to stay, and people wanted to join because we were doing something, I think, exciting and still do think it's exciting. And especially here in San Francisco, the integration of technology with neuroscience for, with the goal of helping people's minds is just really appealing to a lot of us. And so we grew. Now we have almost 40 people here at Neuroscape. And so there's a lot going on. And all of it is along the same pathway that we started back in my lab, even 15 years ago, is can we use technology to generate experiences to improve function? And can we do that in a way that people find enjoyable and willing to engage in? And can we validate it in research trials to show that it actually has a meaningful impact? And can we use neuroscience methodology to understand from a mechanistic perspective how these tools work? Now, we have a lot of video games that we have built over the years. They're all closed loop video games, but they are very different than each other. So Endeavor from NeuroRacer it feels like a video game that people are very familiar with. It's very active, it's very engaging, it has lots of stimuli, lots of reward systems, but it is only one type of game. Like we have a game called Metatrain, where we've had several publications now, which is an eyes closed, slow game focused on your breath. Barely, I think, would fit category of a game, but yet it is a closed loop interactive experience that is designed to improve attention, and which we've shown that to be the case in multiple populations. We have other games that we take place in head mounted displays using virtual reality interfaces, a game Labyrinth to improve memory in older adults, a rhythm and music game called Coherence to improve, we've shown now working memory, as well as even reading performance in children. and others. Body Brain Trainer is a game that uses physical fitness and motion capture and real-time physiological recordings. So I would say all of these games are similar in that they use closed loop technologies. We designed them all in-house. It takes us a couple of years to build each of them, and then a couple of years to do the first trials. Pretty much all of them have publications now, and people could go on our website, on Neuroscape's website, and read any of those publications. Most of them are just over the last 2 and 3 years, and they're all designed to lead to improvements outside of the game and to show mechanistically how that transfer is occurring. So I'm very excited about the fact that we've now um, done, essentially what we did with NeuroRacer a half dozen times again. And we have all of these new technologies that have papers out there, publications, and they're all now on the precipice of moving beyond. And where they go, whether it's in a wellness, education, or medical focus, if it's in the US or outside the US, it's all unknown. That's sort of like the next part of this journey, is to think about where all this technology goes and how it helps people in as uh, you know, scalable a way as possible. So that's like a big part of what we're all focusing on now, is we finished the first pass, now let's get it into the world.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get there because that's the that is the challenge right now. But before we go there, I want to just say, I'm surprised actually. I don't think I've heard you use the term yet, experience is medicine, because that's like one of your mantras,
Yeah.
and that's been a big focus, but there are lots of ways of treating mental health problems or cognitive problems, and they can potentially work synergistically. And so I wonder if you might talk a little bit about how you think about that.
Yeah, well, 100%. This idea, and I do use it a lot, of experiential medicine. Experiences medicine is sort of like our grounding point for what we're trying to do. That we've used molecules as, essentially the paradigm of medicine for the mind for
Mm.
decades. But experiences have been around as a way of improving our mind for longer than that, going back to, meditation and mindfulness practices that have been around thousands of years. And one of the things that we do, and you probably heard it in the list of games that we build, is find real life experiences, like music and rhythm and physical fitness and meditation and mindfulness, and then bring elements of that into our video game system, the closed loop delivery. So, I tend to think of the video game as just essentially like our pill or our syringe. I try to demystify it. Games are amazing. I have all the respect both for the artistic part of gaming, the entertainment value, and what we've been able to do with it. But to me, it is a delivery system of the experience, and the experience itself is the medicine. Um, and then on the synergistic side, not putting a silo around every single thing, which humans are just so fond of doing, right? We even have a silo not just around drugs as a treatment, but every drug has a silo. We really understand the interactivity between them in a very poor way. Nor should we build a silo around experiential medicine or digital medicine or video games as medicine or around endeavor. What we really need to be thinking is a multimodal treatment approach, and how do we understand, from a research perspective, how these different tools might have synergistic value. Even the combination of molecules and interactive experiences as treatments is vastly understudied and incredibly important. One of our focus areas now is, how do we combine molecules with experiential medicine. One of the molecules I'm most interested in are psychedelics. We have a whole psychedelics division at Neuroscape now. We completed an MDMA trial. We have several psilocybin studies started, but our ultimate goal is how we can use experiences digitally delivered to create safer, more effective psychedelic treatments. So again, there is that opportunity to build experiences in a targeted way and then use that to enhance other treatments. One other area is non-invasive brain stimulation. So we do a lot of work with both direct current and alternating current electrical stimulation, showing that we can accelerate learning with these approaches. once again, how do we use experiential treatments to combine them with non-invasive brain stimulation? Sort of the through line there is both stimulating the brain electrically and using psychedelics are rather blunt instruments. They don't really have selectivity. They're very hard to monitor and change in real time, but an experience that is delivered right down the middle during those treatments can act as a way of guiding them. And that's sort of like one of the main areas of focus now. Besides all the work that I described on the games and how they might work together in different populations, how do we use the experiences as a way of activating networks selectively, but then apply other approaches like non-invasive brain stimulation and psychedelics to see if we can boost those effects and maybe make the outcomes more enduring.
Or in a sense, it seems like psychedelics or stimulation opens an opportunity that then can be leveraged through providing an experience that
What
creates learning.
100%.
Yeah,
Like, so a commonality between psychedelics and non-invasive brain stimulation is that they're both plasticity inducing, right?
right.
There's tons of basic data on both of those tools. But if you induce plasticity and then don't challenge the system, I always think it's like a bodybuilder taking steroids but not going to the gym, right? Like that would not be a good strategy. And it's funny to think about that way, but I feel like it's very similar, right? If you
Yeah,
boost plasticity, you should really be taking advantage of that window and pushing the system to the next level. And so the integration and the synergy between them is really, I think, the next frontier in this field.
yeah. All right. So you've done all this and continue to do all of this amazing work, and you get all of these data that demonstrate the effectiveness, and then you've also started companies like Akili. But that seems, at least it seems to me, is one of the major challenges we have right now in any kind of technology enabled services. And maybe we can just start with kind of the journey that you've had with
Yeah.
Akili or with as an entrepreneur, and where you see the challenges at this point.
Yeah, so my entrepreneurial life has been, over a decade now since we started Akili like 13 years ago. And I've learned a lot. I didn't know what a Series A was. I didn't really understand what intellectual property was, what a patent was. Now I have many of them, and we've been through a Series A, B, C, D, and a public, offering. And, I've learned a lot about what it takes to grow a company and made good decisions, bad decisions, as everyone does along the way. I think that the first big challenge that we faced as a company and many companies, so as a field, you could almost speak about this as a field, because there's so many groups doing similar things or differences. Like we are very uniquely a video game treatment, but there's a lot of other companies doing really important work with like cognitive behavioral therapy and turning those into digital therapeutics that are similar. I mean, we're in the same field and advancing them through the FDA has been, the first uniquely uh, challenging uh, endeavor. And that was, largely because no one had ever done anything like it before. So it's really having a de novo treatment. So there are two pathways in the FDA. One is called a predicate system, like a 510(k), where you're resting on a previous treatment that you fall into the same category. And another is de novo, which means that there is no predicate. You're creating a new category. And that is a lot harder, both in terms of the validation that you need and the time course of it is not as constrained. So it could take a long time. So both cognitive behavioral therapy as a digital therapeutic was a de novo pathway, and video game treatments like Endeavor was a different de novo pathway, felt to be a different category from the FDA's perspective. And so working through the phase 3 trials and the data and then presenting it and trying to essentially convince the FDA that this should be viewed as medicine in the same way that they view drugs, and in this case, stimulants for ADHD, was, multiple years of work, and we were able to do that. And excitingly had approval as a class 2 medical device for Endeavor for the treatment of ADHD in children 8 to 12 years old in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. And then most recently, and second FDA approval based on a whole new set of data for adolescents with ADHD, and now working through and in the final stages of the pathway to have over-the-counter treatment, which is different than the prescription treatment, still FDA approved for adults with ADHD. So,
Mhm.
from a entrepreneurial path to take something from academics, move it out, build a much better product from a scalable point of view and also an engagement point of view, an experiential point of view, and then to go through the large scale, multi-site, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials you need to do in order to get something through these regulatory bodies. Do that successfully was, Everest for us, and we accomplished that. And super proud of that, and I think it really um, sets the stage for many other groups that are interested in these type of treatments. And then obviously the next challenge is the commercialization, which is another beast, and one that I would say every company in the field is challenged with around the world, figuring out how to move a completely novel type of medicine into a healthcare system that doesn't have a space for it right now. And that includes both how practitioners might think about it, how uh, insurance companies reimburse people for it. And it's challenging, and we're facing the challenges. Other companies, there's some prominent bankruptcies of big companies in the field. Akili is going through its own approach to thinking about strategic partnership to do this not alone. Doing this alone anytime is hard. Doing this alone in the current market is almost impossible, I would say. And it doesn't just apply to us, it's sort of across the whole world of innovative solutions. So, figuring that out it's still something in front of us. We have lots of ideas, we have lots of things we've learned, and many of our colleagues in different companies, we're all pooling our knowledge together here. Um, I'm optimistic. I believe that experiential medicine will exist alongside molecular medicine as a mainstay treatment, that it will no longer be marginalized as alternative in the future. Whether or not it'll really start first here in the US or in other countries where they have different reimbursement systems that are a little more favorable to this is unknown. But that is, I would say, the next step of the journey is figuring out how to now get this affordably into people's hands to continue to validate it on the large scale, something that you can only really do once you're in the market and have thousands of people being treated. And then how do we keep improving it? How do we look at, the integration across different treatments, behavioral treatments with cognitive interventions, with molecular tools? And that's the future. And that's the future I'm excited about. And a lot of us are working on it. And hopefully we will see that we improve people's lives and maybe have a little bit of a you know a little bit of momentum in addressing what I view as the cognition crisis.
Yeah. You know, yeah, this situation right now is extremely challenging, and it seems like in the field of digital mental health or digital health generally, I mean, unlike a lot of areas where technologies get introduced, in this case, there's just no ecosystem for it to grow in.
Yeah,
There's no structures in place. The regulatory system is unclear. The payment system is non-existent. There's not necessarily expertise or people who've gone ahead that can help shape the path. It's extremely challenging, and it's when you see these big companies that are sort of falling by the wayside, it seems everybody's just trying to hang on until those problems like reimbursement get resolved. But you said something I think kind of interesting, is you said the sort of the pathway forward. I think you said it's partnerships, or and
yeah,
say a little more about, because I suspect that that's one of the things that I've
yeah. I would
yeah.
say that, there was a time when the field was maturing, or maybe advancing out of infancy. People were getting FDA approvals, there were products. where there was enthusiasm for, small companies becoming big companies, becoming like the future Pfizer's and Johnson and
Yeah.
Johnson, and an industry that emerges alongside the pharmaceutical industry that has billion-dollar companies with vast portfolios of offerings. Um, but now what is apparent is that it's really hard to do it alone. It was always hard to do alone, and maybe that was always overly ambitious. But I think the combination of the challenges in getting reimbursement, first of all, and the fact that it's a intransient system in many ways. The healthcare system and the education system have been around for so long, and they're just very hard to move. That coupled with the fact that the market is so bad right now, right? There's such little capital flowing into things that are non-profitable. We go through these waves of tolerance for things that aren't profitable, um, to complete intolerance, which is where we are now. And it takes time to build up profits. I mean, revenue is happening. There's no doubt about that. There are tools out there, there are people buying them, there are people being helped, but profits take a while, and there's no time for that, to happen. And so I'd say the combination of just bad timing and trying to do something that no one's ever done before in a system that's quite unflexible and not incentivized to change is creating a it's creating the conditions where everyone's realizing we have to work together. Um, that, we we might have one, each company has one really important offering. If it was rolled up with, larger supporters, maybe it'll have more momentum. And so there's a lot of interest in just working together to make this field get to the next level. And that's globally happening.
Mhm.
But it's early days, and that's sort of one of my main goals now is to understand the true global landscape of where this field is now and how I can play a role in whatever comes next. I think the thing that we know most in a positive way is that it does seem to work, these treatments. That the data is converging across multiple different lines, that there's something meaningful here. And this is not a good thing, but it's a true thing that there's incredible need, no lack of need. So we have something that works in need, which is, you would think the foundation for real change, but um, that is not enough in itself. Then you just need to be tenacious and just keep pushing on the system as cleverly and as forcefully as possible. And then it just takes time. And we need more time. But that's what I believe, is the best way to go forward.
Yeah, well, I think the only way you can get through this is with a lot of optimism and a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I remember the discussions of trying to get through the FDA, and it seemed sometimes like it was impossible, but we got through, and I feel still as tenacious as I ever did about this, and I am not backing off. And that's true of hundreds of people that I know. There is a lot of enthusiasm here, and
mhm.
yeah, we knew it was going to be hard, and we wish sometimes it would be easier, but it's not, and that's okay. And so,
Yeah.
that's what the future holds.
So, we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to leave some time for questions. And sometimes we get to this point and there are no questions, but there are already a bunch in here, so I want to start
Sure.
getting to them. So, the first one here from Arca. Humans have tried to control and change the world around them without understanding the full picture and considering the long-term repercussions that has led to the ecological crisis. Should we try to enhance the human mind without first understanding the human mind well? Could that potentially exacerbate the cognition crisis?
Yeah, I would say yes, we should try. I think that we need to understand the mind better. That's, I think, one of the underlying sort of tenets of why there's a cognition crisis. So, but they have to be done in parallel. We can't just wait. Understanding the human mind in all its complexity may never happen, and we need to keep learning. We need to do so in an informed way. But this is the time. I would say this crisis is growing around the world, and the consequences of it are immense. That they're beyond just having a poor quality of life. I think that our ability to manage the other complex time delayed crises that we face, like the ecological crisis, like climate change, is dependent upon us addressing the cognition crisis, right? Like if we can't pay attention long enough and make better longer term empathic decisions, we cannot manage climate change. So I think that it's essential that we try to enhance the human mind right now, but we should do so as informed a way as possible, and then we should constantly monitor along the way. I think a lot of the problems we faced with moving too fast has not been um, that it was irresponsible to do it. It's just that we often did not monitor carefully what were all the implications of the things we were doing. So I think if we do so as informed as possible and constantly monitor for negative or positive effects, that's the best we can do. But I do not think we should be waiting at all in this regard. It's not going away and it's going to get worse.
All right, another question here. Thanks for sharing the insights. Do you do you also use principles of stimulating or not stimulating in the various theories? This may or may not be related to various mental problems specific to the cognitive functions. Not
Um,
quite sure.
yeah, I'm trying to understand exactly what that means. Principle of stimulating and not
Actually,
stimulating.
I said again below, do you also use the starting point of stimulation or also the non-stimulation in various therapies?
Um, is this about brain stimulation? If I can, well, from, if it is about stimulation or non-stimulation from the from the non-invasive brain stimulation field, it's something that we're really interested in.
Yeah, he is
It's
asking about stimulation, brain stimulation.
about brain stimulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of reason to think there is something exciting there, but there's been a lot of mixed data in terms of what the role of stimulation is in improving cognition. I think that the reason why it's so mixed is that if you stimulate without doing something um, in a systematic way while being stimulated, I think the outcomes can be very different. Going back to the idea that you drive plasticity, right? Especially electrical stimulation as opposed to magnetic stimulation is really neuromodulatory, not even causing neurons to fire. And so it's going to enhance what is going on at the time. So I think that coupling it with, like, for example, we have an NIH grant right now to study like maybe making it less abstract would be helpful. Coupling theta stimulation across the prefrontal cortex with a device that is used at home in older adults that have early mild cognitive impairment while they play our meditation game MetaTrain. So this is a perfect example of the direction that we want to go. Can we bring this stimulation protocol to hopefully increase plasticity while older adults with early signs of cognitive impairment are playing our meditation game to get the benefits that we saw in attention? Can we increase those benefits by stimulation? So that's an area that I think has a lot of potential, and fortunately, the NIH does as well. So we'll see if that can help, decrease the slide into dementia that these older adults, face when they have mild cognitive impairment. I don't know
All
if
right,
I
we have
answered.
a couple of questions here that sort of related around AI. So, do you integrate AI into the games, digital mental health applications, et cetera? Perhaps the AI industry can create a partnership. There are industries that have digital mental health in their vision, strategy, and mission. And then another question here about, do you have experience in LLM chatbots to deliver mental health coaching.
Yeah, maybe I'll just talk about AI at a high level and what we're doing because it is relevant and I have not mentioned it at all. Our approach to digital interventions with using closed loop technologies have algorithms as part of this adaptive feedback system. They're not classic machine learning or AI algorithms, but they can be. And so that's one area that we think inserting some of the approaches, whether or not it's large language models or other pattern classification approaches into that system, is an area of active research for us. But the place where we are doing the most work with AI is on what we call our multimodal biosensing system work. So we over the last several years created a what we call it the dream system internally, but it is essentially as many different electrodes as we could attach to someone in a reasonable amount of time to capture activity across the brain and body. So we call it multimodal biosensing. And what we have coupled that with is a multisensory immersion laboratory. So inside the multisensory immersion laboratory, you see, hear, smell, and feel environments. We've actually created a nature environment. We call it the nature journey as the first experience that we're studying. And so you would, as a participant in this study, you would be connected to the multimodal biosensing system, like 160 electrodes, takes around 45 minutes to put on. And then you sit here and this is a passive experience as opposed to many of our games, which are quite active. And you go through this nature music journey, just interrupting it very briefly to tell if you've had a moment of awe, wonder, or joy, and with just a press of a button. And so what we have here is this really rich data set that we would like to understand how it is a reflection of the state of that individual in real time while they go through this experience. So their level of arousal, the valence, whether their mood is high or low, positive or negative, and their attention. Is their attention sustained? Is it internal? Is it external? And do they have any reflection of awareness during this, which they can do with a button press? And so this is really where machine learning and AI come in deeply. Can we use large language model approaches to understand this vast data? In other words, instead of looking through all the data in, a language pool like you could scrub from the internet, can we use models like that to understand this really rich four-dimensional physiological data to be able to predict state in as close to real time as possible? The next step would be how we can then use that data to guide a generative AI approach to creating immersive environments that are responding to that physiology. So, in other words, imagine instead of using a chat or a text prompt to guide the creation of a story or a visual image or even a video, imagine if your physiological data was being used in real time to create multi-sensory immersive environments. This is what I think is the future of closed loop experiential medicine, is that the prompts into the system will be modal across all these different aspects of physiology and will guide immersive experiences that are challenging and rewarding you in a way that is just inaccessible to us right now. And I think that this will be the 10-year vision of where this field will go.
All right. So a couple more questions here. Are you exploring the link between eye tracking and biphoton emissions in the eyes or face?
We have in our multimodal biosystem, we have eye recording and facial expression recording, and we are just adding on eye tracking now. Eye tracking is a little difficult to us given just the logistics of how you interact, how you're sort of stimulated, but it is something that we are moving into.
All right. And then curious if any future psychedelic work will look at insomnia.
We do have some work on insomnia right now with our meditation game, another funded study to look at how Metatrain might improve sleep quality. We have not done anything with psychedelics and insomnia. Right now, all of our psychedelic work is really looking at emotional regulation and attention, but it's a big future. So hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah. So can video games serve as an effective tool to test and predict mental health risk? How can it be integrated in, for example, digital mental health interventions?
Great question. Again, this is the challenge. I like having conversations like we did, but sometimes you don't cover all the things like you might in a formalized talk. But they're all getting covered in questions now. One of the other areas of focus we have is to use closed loop video games as assessment and diagnostic tools to understand cognition and even its relation with mental health risk. And that would be the front end of an approach to then personalize hopefully a number of different games that would be applied as a treatment. So yes, we do use video game technologies as assessment tools that then become the actionable uh, data generating platform to guide the video game interventions.
And are you seeing these as sort of I'll just go ahead and add in here because I mean, it seems like you've got a lot of different kinds of tools. Are you seeing this as potentially something where you have an entire suite that can manage all kinds of different problems through these?
That's the goal. That's the vision is that someone might present or maybe even do it at home even better with a type of video game or series of video games that really allow us to get a deep, comprehensive assessment of all aspects of cognition, attention, perception, memory, emotional regulation, empathy, compassion, all the things we're talking about. And then in a data informed way, apply a prescription of different types of games that might push on those different systems and optimize them and switch them over time. And that's the vision that I see, that there'll be a multi-factorial approach to improving these in individuals, and hopefully doing it before they're completely debilitated or suicidal. Like all of this ideally would be applied preventatively when there are the first signs of challenge.
Essentially kind of an immersive clinic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we are now just about at the top of the hour. So Adam, I want to thank you very, very much for spending an hour with us.
My
I'm
pleasure.
really grateful. It's incredible. Basically the only thing that I'm missing here is that I want logins to try using all of your stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
hopefully we'll get them to your hands soon. And yeah, thank you, David. And we've known each other a long time, and it's really nice to talk with you and go deep into these things. And and your own contributions in the field are really important. So I'm glad that we had an opportunity to unpack some of this. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's truly been an honor. So thank you. And so everyone, this is the last of the last one of this year. And so we will be resuming again in September. So you're taking us out, Adam.
Oh, I love it. I see
All right.
little claps floating, little digital claps floating up. Thanks,
There we
everyone.
go. All right. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.